Today, guys will try to convince you that lat pulldowns are not a lat exercise. I know, it's crazy, but for some reason, people actually buy into this. And you have a new trend of biomechanics experts who basically claim that every traditional exercise is a poor choice. And you'll often hear them claim that you need to do some fancy exercise variation to quote unquote bias the specific muscle. Let me stop you right there. Basic movements work the target muscle. Every old school bodybuilder built their backs with basically 3 exercises: pull-ups, pull-downs, and barbell rows. Add in some pullovers, and that's basically all they did for their backs back then. Not to mention, these exercises built some massive backs. They built physiques that even 50 years later, the majority of bodybuilding experts still can't reproduce. And at not one point did any of these guys back then worry if the lat pull down was an effective lat exercise. Now the pull down, like any other exercise you pick in the gym, will work a set of target muscles directly. In this case, that's the entire upper back, the lats, the rhomboids, the teres major, the traps, the rear delts, etc. And because it's a compound lift, it'll work a set of muscles indirectly as well. In this case, that's the biceps, the brachialis, and the forearm muscles. The lat pull down will work all of these muscles, and it's a great exercise to have in your program. But despite what people tell you today, you don't need a fancy alternative to one of the basic and oldest cable exercises in the gym. And in order to target your lats, you just need to understand which attachment you should use, how you should position your elbows, and what your range of motion should look like. Starting with the traditional wide grip lat pull down, a wide or even a medium grip forces the elbows out, and a vertical pulling movement with this grip still heavily engages the lats, but now it's incorporating a lot more of the upper back, the teres major, and the lower traps. And when I'm performing pull downs like this, my intention is to use the best bang for my buck variation, meaning I'm not looking to target just one area of my back, but rather looking to target as many muscles as possible to my entire upper back. The lats, they generally work the hardest on the bottom portion of the movement or in the shortened position. And if I really wanted to avoid targeting any of the other areas of the back, you can make a case for stopping just a few inches short of lockout on the top. But again, if you're going for full back development during this lift, I'm going to focus on the greatest range of motion possible and really focusing on stretching the lats at the top. That's going to be where more upper back, lower traps, and rhomboids and rear delts are incorporated on this lift. Me personally, I take this a step further, and I don't just pull the bar down to underneath my chin. I pull the bar down all the way to the clavicle. Not only that, I actually pull it in towards the body. This again hits my lats harder during the contraction, but it also really pulls in the rear delts and lower traps. And if you're only going to pick one lat pull down variation, it might make sense to perform them similar to this. But now, let's get a little fancy here. What if you wanted to do pull downs that targeted the lats specifically? Or better yet, bias the lats, like people like to say today. You don't need to go crazy and pull the bench away from the machine. You don't need to rig up some new elaborate exercise variation. You just have to understand how to position your arms. You also need to understand how to execute that movement for your goal. Targeting the lats specifically, it's not about angles. Targeting the lats specifically is all about elbow path. Remember, when we push those elbows out to the side and we pull down, the lats are still working, but we're incorporating more upper back as a result of this movement. But now, when we pull the elbows close to the body and in front of us and pull, the lats have no choice but to do the majority of the work. That's why an underhand grip lat pull down is generally a bit more lat specific than a wide grip overhand. By grabbing a closer grip underhand or even a neutral grip, the elbows are now placed in front of the body, not at the sides. And when we pull that bar down, the elbows are traveling from out in front of the body overhead to all the way down in front of the torso. This movement is primarily done by the lats. You're not isolating them, but again, you're targeting the lats specifically. And the upper back, the traps, and the rear delts, they're still worked, but to a lesser degree. But this movement pattern is not unique to the pull down specifically. Any pulling movement that you want to make a bit more lat specific, just keep the elbows closer to the body. If you're doing a barbell row and you're keeping those elbows tucked closer to the body, you're going to hit the lats a bit more. And if you do the opposite and you flare those elbows out, you're going to hit the rhomboids, the traps, the upper back a bit more. And with all that said, you can perform your pull downs, your rows, or any other movement however you see fit. But just understand the exact technique you use should be based around your specific goals. And one is not better than the other. Each variation is a tool, and you should use the right tool for the right job. And if you want the exact training programs that I personally recommend to build muscle using proven old school bodybuilding methods, check out all my old school mass gain programs down below. And as always, if you guys want to see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to hit subscribe.